All right. Halo Infinite is getting match and performance-based XP rewards next week, and here's how it'll work. I don't need to know how it'll work, actually. I don't care how it'll work. Here's what I want to say, Spoon. I'm in a mood right now, Spoon. I apologize. This is something that should have been in there. Let's pretend that it doesn't get in there day one, okay? Let's give 343 the benefit of the doubt, which they probably don't deserve at this point for this kind of stuff. This should have been out about a month after release.
Yeah, people were complaining about this from day one. They're like, "Hey, your challenge system sucks. Fix it. We want match XP." They fixed they fixed the challenges and made the challenges better. That took a couple of weeks. I think maybe it took a month.
Yeah.
And now 11 months later, we finally have this.
I don't understand. Is this hard to implement? I'd like to sit down with some of the developers and ask them that. Be like, can you explain to me the implementation process of this?
Well,
because to me it sounds simple.
Probably laid off 90% of their team after the game came out. So, you know.
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But in any case, let's even if the team was smaller, I don't know if this is hard to implement. This is like when match ends, there is a pool of things that the game has tracked that you have accomplished. Even if it's just the basic, like, okay, you get a base of 100 XP after your match, and since you got more kills and assists than deaths, we'll give you 50 extra XP, and, you know, you got like a couple multi-kills. Here's another 100. Let's just pretend it's simple, even though it's not. It's more complicated than that, but like, is that hard to implement? Is that really that hard to implement? That's what I'm confused about. Like, if this was like an overhaul,
it doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't.
Like,
theoretically, it doesn't, and that's the problem. Is I think it is actually pretty easy to implement in relation to if we compare it to like how hard is Forge to get out, and how hard is, you know, making like all these new maps and things like that. How hard is it to make a new game mode? Like, I'm surprised this wasn't prioritized higher in their tree of work. And I'm surprised that this took this long. This should have been out. This should have been out in December of 2021.
At worst, this should have come out like on season 2 launch.
Right.
Like that would have been 6 months, which still is too long. But like, look, they were fixing stuff, and I don't know. Well, it doesn't seem like they've done much, but I'm sure they've been working on it. But
I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
But
like, worst case scenario, this should have come out in May when season 2 came out.
Exactly.
Like,
this should have been out in May. Worst case scenario, you're right. This should have been out in May. And the fact that it's November 5th, 2022, and they're like, next week you're gonna get this. I'm like, again, I'm kind of just in the mode of, okay, well, that's not gonna get me to play, so who cares? Like, this is also something, too. They announced this. Is this going to get anybody to actually play this game now?
I don't think so.
No. You, like, that's what I don't get. Some part of me, and this is all about change. Okay, so it's part of their winter update, right? It's part of their winter update. So I guess, to be fair, you know, they're like, okay, we're packaging this into the winter update. But, like, I'm genuinely curious. Do you think the winter update is going to actually make people want to play this game again?
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I think the thing that's coming in this winter update is Forge coming in the winter update? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I forgot if Forge is coming in.
I think Forge beta.
Okay.
Forge beta or something.
That's going to be the thing.
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think so. What?
Forge is going to get new people into, or sorry, not new people, but like pre-existing people to come back. Forge will get people to come back. That's it. It's going to be just Forge at this point. And if Forge isn't like spectacular as a beta day one, maybe it doesn't have to be spectacular. Maybe it just has to be functional, like good enough. Good. As long as it's good enough, and it works to a certain degree of effectiveness, that's going to get people to come back and stay. If Forge is not good as a beta, I don't think people are ever going to come back.
I mean, I'm almost on the boat of like, the ship may have sailed already on this game, that people have just like lost. They're just like, yeah, they fucked it. Like, moving on. What's next?
I think Forge is the last boat. I'm gonna go with Forge is the last boat. Forge is the last big boat out, and they're like, okay, well, this is the last chance. I think if Forge works out, it'll bring people back. Not everybody, but it'll bring people back. Because Forge is like, there is a significant Forge community. So they bring that back, they get it working, and it's effective. I think Forge will bring people back. If Forge is not like particularly great, I think that's the last one. I think that's their last chance. I just like, why would anybody ever want to come back if Forge is not functional in the way that it should be? I don't see it ever happening. I mean, like, but yeah, I think this is the last chance because I mean, like, campaign co-op's not going to bring anybody back. Nobody cares anymore. I can answer that for you.
They already killed split screen.
So. Yeah, they already killed split screen. Nobody gives a shit about campaign co-op at this point. I don't know if you do. I'm sorry out there. I'm generalizing for you. Nobody gives a shit. It's been too far out. Like if campaign co-op came out like maybe about 3 months after campaign released, I think that'd be like, okay, well, yeah, it's been like 3 months. It's a short enough time. It's been like a year. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna go back to that. I'm sorry, but if you asked me, Spoon, hey, you want to play campaign? I'd probably just say, no, I'm good. It's not a draw for me. I don't know. I've talked for a bit, Spoon. Sorry.
No, I mean, I pretty much agree with what you're saying. I just think that like 343 had and Microsoft had a huge opportunity with this game. As I mentioned before, they had a lot of momentum back in November. People really liked it, and they just didn't have the infrastructure. Like, the game's base wasn't solid enough, so they had to spend way too much time just like fixing stuff and addressing player complaints, and then I don't know, like, how many. It feels like there's like 3 people working on this game. Like, how hard is it to make a couple new maps every like 3 months or something like that? Like, I don't understand. Like, don't you have game designers or like map designers that can work on maps while other people work on Forge and other people work on this? Like, I get it, you're gonna downsize the team when you go into like live service mode. I understand that, but like, it's just like, who just like, what are they doing? Like, I just don't understand what's taking so long.
I don't either.
Like,
I don't get it. I'm this, and it's not like Microsoft is pumping money into this, and if they're not, like, I don't know why they aren't. This is like their flagship franchise. So what? And if you're pumping money into it, you're obviously not doing it in a way that the 343 team, as is today, whatever it used to be, who knows, as is today, just doesn't know how to make this work fast enough. They're just not making it work fast enough. And also, I think, well, you know this by now, but I feel like you know this. Like, I think Halo Infinite, what we got, the multiplayer version, for example, that was a minimum viable product. That was an MVP of a game. Completely. And you can see that. You can see that.
Really good thing it was really fun to play, because otherwise it just wouldn't.
It was
shit.
It was a really fun to play MVP. It had just enough to get people to start playing and to recognize, hey, this game has some bones. And the campaign, when it released, was good enough where people said, hey, this campaign is kind of fun. It's fun to play in an open world setting, but you could tell that campaign was also a minimum viable product in a way, because there were parts of the map that just you couldn't go to. There was nothing in them. You could tell. You're like, okay, something smells fishy here. There's like a couple other regions in the map. Either they're saving.
Should have been something here.
Yeah, I'm like, are you saving it for a DLC? I'm confused. And I think what we got a minimum viable product. And they said, okay, we have our minimum viable product. Here's the problem, though. We didn't give ourselves enough of a like runway here. We have too much runway. in
It's
that.
like they wanted, or it's like they wanted to do a live service and they had no plans after
Right.
release. Like they didn't know what to do.
They
Like
just
they
didn't
didn't
plan.
map it out after release, and they were just like, "Well, now what do we do?" It was like, "Well, I guess we gotta fix some
We
of the
got
shit that like
yeah.
already broke it." Because, I mean,
They
this
spent
game,
months fixing
this
bugs.
game, yeah, this game should have come out like today, this month. They should have delayed it another year.
Yeah, I think if it came
Like-
out in its current state with the winter update on top of it at the time winter update's releasing, I think people would have been fine waiting an extra year if they had done this multiplayer beta thing that they did last year. Well, the multiplayer released, right? But if they had instead been like, okay, this is an open beta. We're going to do this open beta. And they had done this open beta and recognized, wow, we still have a lot of bugs to fix. And they had said, look, we're going to take one more year. I think they would have been fine if they had just done like open beta last November, fix the bugs, open beta January, time frame, fix some more stuff, make sure big team's working. Because by the way, big team was not working for a long time.
Yeah.
In May, when their season 2 came out, do like a massive open beta of the multiplayer, like with all its functionality possible, for like a month or something. Just do a ridiculously long open beta, or just release the multiplayer at that point. And then, November 8th rolls around, and this should have been the full release here. That would have made sense to me, because I think with the winter update and all this stuff with like match and performance-based XP, Forge beta, that would have been more than enough.
And it seems like maybe now they're finally caught up on all the crap they needed to fix and add into the game, and maybe they can finally start adding more content to the multiplayer now.
Right.
Because that is what this game needs. It lacked content. Like there
Yep.
were not enough maps or modes or good ways to play, and like the playlists were a freaking travesty when the game came out too,
Yep.
and it took them a while to fix that too. So this was just like a poorly conceived like project. I don't know. This game feels like it was another game that was like in development for a long time, but they didn't really figure out what they were going to do until like a year before the game came out, and they just threw it together, and I was like, all right, here it is.
Yeah, I think.
But it's in development for 5 or 6 years, and we've just burned through a ton of money and done nothing with it. So
yeah, somebody at Microsoft said, "Get it out now." I mean, that's what it came down to. Is somebody high at Microsoft.
We're tired of waiting and spending all this money. You need to put something out.
They looked at the financials and they're like, "It's been a long time, guys. We need to make money now. We need money now. Get this out." And they're like, "Well, we need another year." And they said, "Too bad. Get it out."
Also, their storefront, their freaking cash shop and cosmetics are dog shit too.
Oh yeah, they're terrible. Yeah, they were terrible on release for sure. I mean, it's just like it was awful. I'm like, some part of me does want to kind of go back during this winter update and take a look.
Yeah.
But I don't hold out much hope for this game at this point, like at all.
Like, it's still gonna be fun to play. It's gonna be the same thing, but like.
But how much longer until I'm like, yeah, but I've done this before. I don't want to keep grinding this same thing.
And they've added like one or two new maps in.
Yeah.
I think they added one. Was it one arena map and one big team map, or 2 arena maps and 1 big team?
I don't know. I don't remember. It wasn't exciting.
Either way, it wasn't enough, and like ranked wasn't that good either. Like the way the ranking system was like weird. I think they may have fixed that a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people got put in diamond was the problem. Like a lot of people, and that didn't make sense to me.
But again, it just seems like, I don't know. It just seems like no one cares anymore because they just took too long to fix it. Basically, like you can't. Like with live service games, you have to like come out of the gate running.
Oh yeah.
You can't limp over the starting line and then like not have a plan and not put content out, because people are gonna get bored and they're gonna go on to
move on to something
whatever new live service game is coming out next week, because there's always another one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, or just any other shooter. I mean, like at this point, you've got you've got like various shooters that are like appealing right now. And you see Halo, and Halo is a different shooter compared to others. Halo is its own shooter. But, you know, you look at all these other things that are happening, like Call of Duty came out. Like, Call of Duty is going to suck away some people from Halo, for sure. Anybody that would have come on for the winter update, Call of Duty did a good job. So people are just going to stick with that. And Fortnite still does its thing. It's still going to get players because it's Fortnite.
Fortnite, Apex, Overwatch.
Apex Legends is going to get its thing. Overwatch is going to take players away because people are like, hey, Overwatch is fun. It has significant problems that are not necessarily specifically related to the game, though there are a couple bugs still with some characters. Yeah, people are just like, yeah, well, why don't I just do that? And, you know, Overwatch 2 is also free, so there you go. Fortnite's free. There you go. Call of Duty's problem is it's got a $70 paywall, but, like, Call of Duty fans don't care about that.
No,
they don't care. They don't care about the $70. That's not an issue for them. So, like, this winter update's going to come out. It's the least exciting thing on the shooter market right now, as far as major shooters go. I'm guessing the player base will go up like 10%.
Yeah,
because of Forge, and it's because of Forge. And if Forge does well, it'll go up more.
Yeah, if Forge is good and like people are easily able to create cool maps and like put the maps actually into the game for people to play, that could get people to come back if Forge is really good and it's easy to like access and play Forge maps. And
you can bet Forge is going to come out and the first couple maps that are going to be made are like Blood Gulch. Somebody's going to make a Blood Gulch and somebody will pick it as a de facto version of it.
That's what I think 343 is like, they are counting on the community to make they can't be bothered to make maps, so they're counting on the community to make maps for them. And like they're gonna I'm gonna bet on this. They're gonna take maps that they think are like really good in Forge and maybe they'll make some tweaks to them and then they'll actually like release them into the fucking playlist like as part of the game.
And
like,
they will. And
it's a Forge map. Like
if they're smart, they'll do that. They'll credit the person that made it, and if they're really good about this, they'll like find some way to follow up with that person in a good way. That's what they should. That's like the positive thing to do. But if they're going to do that, I think you're right. They're going to take some of those maps like a Blood Gulch and they'll be like, oh, this is a great map. We're going to put it in the non-competitive rotation this week. Or something like that. So you can play this person's map. Which actually I think is a good idea. To be fair. That is a good idea. It's just, you have to do it the right way to not make people upset. Because they're like, hey, you're just stealing our content. You got to do it a certain way. There's a way to do it that's like not what Blizzard did with Warcraft 3 Reforged. Where they're like, oh yeah, anything you make is ours. And they were really scummy about it. There's a way to do it that's right. So, I don't know. Any other Halo thoughts, Spoon?
Nope.
God, I miss this game. I miss thinking of this game in positive thoughts.
I mean, you gave it Game of the Year last year.
I did give it Game of the Year. I thought it was fantastic on release because every part of it I thought was amazing. And now I'm like, no, I wouldn't anymore because this game really screwed up their roadmap. They really screwed it up. I was thinking, okay, they're going to carry this momentum into next updates. The next updates are going to be faster. And they've gotten slower somehow. I'm like, how'd you get slower?
When you look at a live service, you think like usually 3-month season, maybe 4-month seasons at the worst. But like,
I don't even know if this is the best multiplayer game this year. And it's just not. But like, that's how bad this has gotten. Like last year, if you had asked me, I was like, oh yeah, this is the best multiplayer game right now for me. This is the best one. By far. For anything I'd played before, like Call of Duty at the time, like even Fortnite, which I might have been playing like a little bit. If you had asked me, it would have been Halo, no questions asked. Now I'm like, I don't know what it is. It's a real toss up at this point. It's not Halo though. I don't even know if Halo makes the list.
Ouch.
Okay, this was a our next article. Embracer has shut down Anoma, formerly Square Enix Montreal, which announced this new name just 3 weeks ago. Some of the staff will be moved to Eidos Montreal. They canceled an unannounced game, and they're working with Xbox on games like Fable. So I'm just gonna go down the tweets here, and what was the game? I think they were working on like a Hitman game. Was that it? It was like a Hitman game.
Deus Ex.
It was a Deus Ex game. Okay. Take control. Blah blah blah. Informed staff 2 p.m. Eastern meeting today that it was shutting down as the company pivots to focus only on PC and console. Also, Eidos Montreal canceled the Stranger Things inspired Kids on Bikes game that was rumored recently. They're now working on a new IP, a new Deus Ex, which is said to be very, very early, and co-dev partnerships with Xbox, including Fable. That doesn't mean it's exclusively Fable. It just means including Fable. So, okay, and also I did see, here we go. Anoma, the maker of Hitman Go. It says in the article, obviously, I think this is going to be a paywalled Bloomberg article.
Yeah, probably.
It's interesting because Embracer had just bought this company, but not that recently. How recent was that?
I think it's like a few months ago or something.
Months? I don't remember exactly how recent it was. But this is like a very quick close down. Some part of me is like, if it was in the last 6 months, I think I wouldn't have been shocked. Because Embracer probably would have had the 6 months of extra due diligence, looked at their studios and went, okay, this one can be downsized or moved personnel. Or what do they call it? There's a company term for this. Restructuring. That's it. There's like a term for it where they don't call it layoffs, because layoffs obviously is a bad term. So they call it restructuring, because restructuring is more positive apparently. So they restructured Anoma and closed the studio, and by that I mean they just moved staff over to other places. But yeah, they don't call it layoffs. It's a restructuring. So when you hear that at companies, if like we're restructuring, it means people are getting laid off. Because they can't say layoff, because that's not a nice word.
Yep.
So
yeah. Again, not too much to comment on this story. It is odd that they like just bought this studio pretty recently.
Yeah.
And just like shut it down. But again, it seems like at least some of the staff is being moved to other studios, so it's not like they laid off the entire studio, which is somewhat nice, I suppose, but still.
Yeah.
Still just kind of weird to like buy a studio and be like, actually, we don't really want this.
Yeah, well, it might have also been a case where they looked at it and were like, well, we like the staff. We like some of the staff, so we're going to buy the staff, basically, and keep the ones that I guess they really like. Restructuring, Spoon. They restructured.
Yeah.
It's not a layoff, it's a restructure. It's such a silly thing. That's the day. If you ever hear somebody say we're restructuring the company, it means they're laying a bunch of people off.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't have any other thoughts, just because like I don't know enough about the studio in particular. I don't really play Hitman games.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
I mean, it just sucks that like the staff in particular always get this short notice. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're closing. Good luck. And there's just no notice for anybody to figure out what to do next. It's like such a typical thing. It's so typical. It's like Google Stadia, when Google Stadia decided they wanted to close their first party studio. They're like, week before they closed, everything's fine. Next week, we're closing.
Yep.
It's like, it's so typical. And it's not even like, oh, they're ripping the Band-Aid off. It's like, no, they're being douchebags. Because all these other people not everyone is going to be moved to another division. So they're left in the cold to figure out what's next. And it's just like, they'll get severance, but like, we don't even know how long the severance is in those cases. It could be like 2 months. Who knows? So it just sucks for the staff because they're like usually told last second with no information beforehand. Just it's so stupid. So anyway,